Hi, this is Russell Robinson, the CEO of the Jewish National Fund, for my regular CEO Google Hangout here. And today we're going to be talking to two wonderful people that represent 32 young people from throughout the United States who went to Israel just this past December on a program which we have called Caravan for Democracy. It's a program in which we take non-Jewish students from college campuses throughout the country to show them the other Israel, the real Israel, beyond the conflict, and to show them in Israel that all of them have not experienced. I'm going to ask them questions about what differences they saw, heard, and felt from what they had been hearing on the news and reading about. And we have today two, like I said, of 32 of the participants with us. And with us from University of Pennsylvania, we have Melanie Young. And from North Florida, in Jacksonville, we have Ryan Hellringel. Is that right? Hellringel. I think I was close to it there, Ryan. And I want to welcome you to my Google Hangout. I'm going to start here with Melanie. Melanie, tell me a little something about yourself.
Well, so I grew up in Philadelphia. I've stayed here all 22 years of my life, and I'm a diehard Philadelphian. I go to the University of Pennsylvania, like you said. I'm an urban studies major, and next year I'll be going to get my master's in teaching, and I'll be teaching.
What is an urban studies major?
So we love thinking about cities, so it can range from anything such as urban education, which I'm interested in, but it could also go into urban architecture. We sort of study all aspects of urban society. We're really interested in questions of diversity and how to make sense of small cities that have very problems of sort of poverty and housing, and yeah, that's our studies.
Terrific. And Ryan, tell me something about yourself.
So I was born in New York, Long Island specifically. As you said, I go to the University of North Florida. I'm a senior about to graduate this spring. I study marketing and international business, and I tend to take a gap year before I do my master's program and get my travel bugs out and travel around the world. So a little bit about me.
So both of you, this was your first trip to Israel, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So I'll start, Ryan, with you. Tell us about the program being selected. How did you get recommended? What was the process?
It was a process. So the form is online. You have to get 2 recommendations from. I chose a faculty member at UNF, and I also chose one of my advisors that I'm very close with. It's a great process, and I'm ecstatic that I got chosen for it. Out of everyone in the nation, you get to represent your respective school or your respective location. And honestly, I recommend everybody do it. Because what's the worst that happens? You go for it, you don't get it, but you were in the same exact position that you were before you applied. So definitely partake in this.
So I'll tell everybody now, if you go to jnf.org, Caravan for Democracy, you could apply even for next year's program. Melanie, tell me, why did you apply for the program?
Yeah, so I applied mostly because I'm involved in a lot of interfaith work on campus, and that has led me to a lot of discussions involving Israel. And I mentioned to you before that I traveled with the Hillel on campus to Rwanda, and I got to meet a lot of the Jewish community there. And a lot of what I've learned about Israel had been from either the history books, and so I wanted to get a first-hand account from people outside my university, true Israelis, and so that's why I applied, and I was so blessed to actually have an opportunity to go to Israel. And
so you're coming on the plane, Melanie, you're landing in Israel. Tell us your first hours or days on the trip. What was different for you from what you expected, from what you had read? What was the most contrast to all of those thoughts that you had about Israel?
Well, I mean, I think typically when you think of the Middle East, at least when I told my mom I was going to Israel, she was not very excited. She was asking, like, she's like, why can't you go, like, to Europe, like, go to Paris, go somewhere that there isn't conflict? And so I
And
think,
we see how conflict-free Paris is now. Go ahead.
yes, this is true. So when I arrived on the plane, I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know if there'd be like increased policing or military. Like, would we see war as soon as we walk out of the airport? So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was excited to see. We flew into Tel Aviv, and I have heard great things about Tel Aviv, so I was very excited to see Tel Aviv.
And what did you see when you arrived and you were there and you're looking for your military presence? What was really the view that you saw and the experience for those first couple hours?
So as soon as we got out of the airplane, we were greeted by Lior and Ifta, who are our 2 tour guides. And they were so kind to us. They fed us a good meal. We had like sandwiches, and we had Israeli chocolate for the first time. And we were just really excited to meet our two tour guides. And we were still trying to get to know, because it was 32 of us, and we had never met each other before. We did some conference calls before we left, but other than that, we had no idea. So we were just also beginning the process of getting to know one another.
So Ryan, tell me, you met these 31 other people on your trip. Tell me about them and your own couple of first days experiences and impressions.
So for me, I personally love meeting people. Honestly, Melanie's one of the first people I met. Instantly loved her, still love her till today. It was such a great experience just getting like a different background on everyone. Everybody goes to a different school. Everybody's school is so different. But if I never applied for this trip and wasn't selected, thankfully, I would have never got the opportunity to meet people such as Melanie and a bunch of the others on the trip. My first couple of days, as Melanie said, it was a shock. I mean, it's a culture shock. I mean, my parents were also, why the Middle East, like, kind of scared that I was going. I didn't go into it with any expectations because I didn't want it to bias my views. So what I learned was that it's just like an ordinary country. When we landed, everybody's friendly, everybody says hi. Actually, probably almost more friendly than anybody in the U.S. We landed, and the first thing we saw was a proposal. Like, it was amazing. Everybody was so happy and celebrating. The day after that, it was just meeting new people in like the community, really down-to-earth individuals that I was actually, although I didn't have expectations, I was really shocked at the level of friendliness in a country that's we so far see as war and terror and all these controversies. I guess it was really eye-opening would be the word, that not all that you see on TV is what it actually is. And that just progressed through the whole trip. The whole 10 days was a complete realization that, wow, I need to like look more into stuff before I judge stuff. I don't even know what else to say. There's really nothing else to say.
So Ryan, you're gonna travel for a year, and you told me earlier you're even going to be going back to Israel. Yes. You could travel the world. It wasn't on your agenda before you went on this trip. Why are you going back?
Because there's so much that Israel has going for it. The people are amazing. The culture is amazing. The towns. Honestly, for me, it's the conflict that people see conflict because they don't know it. So I actually want to be like a liaison and be like, hey, I went there. You guys should go there too. It's amazing country. Don't just take it for what you see. Like, you don't judge the book by the cover. You have to read the stories and the chapters in the book. And that's why I want to go back, because I want to read more into the chapters.
That's great. Thank you, Ryan. And Melanie, you've obviously read and heard a lot about Israel, the conflict that is there, the issues of land, peace, war. What were some of the takeaways that you came from this part of Israel that you saw for the first time?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the so when we first arrived in Israel, our tour guide Lior, he mentioned one of the first things he said on the bus was that we're going to find your connection in Israel. And I thought in my head, I was like, how I did not think that I would have a connection to Israel, or I didn't see myself as having a connection to Israel. And one of my takeaways is that I do. So in many ways, from learning about the history of the country, and as a Christian, like I in that way I felt connected to all the biblical stories that I was getting to sort of experience on a day-to-day basis that I learned as a little kid. Also, I also realized that these are people in Israel, and so sometimes when you hear Israel in the news and you read about Israel's history in textbooks, you forget that you're talking about real human beings who experience life every single day. And so those are the two things. You're not just talking about conflict, but you're talking about, like, Lior has a wife and three beautiful children who have to live in Israel every day and experience the day-to-day sort of conflicts that arise because of the unrest there sometimes. And so you just really, you see the human aspect of the conflict. So those were the two things I would take away. I am connected to Israel, and that there are rich stories and families and culture in Israel that you forget when you just think about the conflict.
And at any time, and I'm going to close in a couple of minutes, did you feel it? I mean, did you feel the what people read about? What you talk about, the beauty of the people and the fun and the beauty of Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, and you were telling me earlier about your trip, but we at Jewish National Fund always tell about the positive Israel, about Israel that makes the world a better place, that Israel that's part of this world. And so what was your feeling when you're walking around the streets of Jerusalem? What did you feel? Give me a couple words of just if you were closing, what would you tell people your feeling about this trip was? Start with you, Melanie.
The title of our trip was Caravan for Democracy. And I went there not expecting to see the type of democracy that I saw. Just people of all different types of nationalities and ethnicities and religions. You see that on the street when you're walking down. You see that type of democracy, that type of diversity in Israel. So.
And Ryan?
Well, I was so lost in what Melanie was saying and understanding it, I kind of forgot the original question. If you could repeat.
What did you feel? What was your takeaway about this Israel today, this Israel of tomorrow, the future today? What was your just takeaway from the trip when you left? You're going back. What would you want to say to everybody about your feeling for Israel?
So what I actually currently do tell everybody about Israel is that as I said earlier, you cannot judge a book by its cover. That is Israel, the state. It's amazing what it has to offer, the entrepreneurship, the spirit that's in the air, the feeling of determination that the people have in making their country better in any way possible. Literally, the one word that I have for Israel is it's the country of passion, and that's my takeaway, and I feel like a lot of people's takeaway from the entire trip. And that's why I actually want to go back, because of just the feeling of passion in the air for their country and for what they do, for their families, for everything about themselves.
I want to thank both of you for joining us today on my Google Hangout. I want to tell everybody to go to jnf.org, and if you go to our Facebook page, we'll have more stories from Ryan and from Melanie, from other people from Caravan for Democracy. We also have a page called Positive Israel. Positively Israel on our Facebook. Please join it and hear those stories about the real Israel, the story well beyond the conflict, the story about Israel making the world a better place. These kind of programs that we do are donor directed, and they're co-sponsored also by Media Watch and Faces of Israel together with the Jewish National Fund. And donors that are out there that want to help us bring more of these kind of young people like you just met today, and 30 others that were on that trip, and this is our 4th year of our program where we'll continue. It's to spread a word, and I think that Melanie and Ryan will tell you, we showed them all aspects. You saw from the Muslim side, from the Christian side, you heard from the Palestinians, you saw that there wasn't always perfection. There was issues with all sorts of things. We dealt with women's rights issues, and we try to bring it up because in a land, I think in Melanie's words about democracy, in democracy there's always imperfections. That's not how we define ourselves. It's how we define ourselves is, are we trying to make ourselves better every day? And with the world having a Melanie and a Ryan in the future, we have great leaders of our American democracy and our American community, which are going to lead us, the other 30 people on Caravan for Democracy. And the two of you, again, thank you from Jewish National Fund for joining me on my Google Hangout. And I'll see you next month.